these are the people you're going to see coming up here, and they'll be introduced individually, but that's the collection of good-looking folks that are going to be talking to us during the rest of the day. So let's open it with this. Some sense as to, how long has this been going on? Is this really a new thing, or has it been understood and anticipated in the past? So I'm going to ask you a question. I wonder if you know who made these predictions. It will be possible for a businessman in New York to dictate instructions and have them instantly appear in type at his office in London or elsewhere. He will be able to call up from his desk and talk to any telephone subscriber on the globe. An inexpensive instrument, not bigger than a watch, will enable its bearer to hear anywhere, on sea or land, music or song, the speech of a political leader, the address of an eminent man of science, or the sermon of an eloquent clergyman. Delivered in some other place, however distant, in the same manner any picture, character, drawing, or other print can be transferred from one to another place. Who said that? If you've heard me give the answer, please don't cheat. Does anybody know that from basic understanding? It's not Vannevar Bush, but that's getting close. First of all, I hope you recognize, if that's not a great description of the internet, I don't know what is. Well, it was this man, and it was 101 years ago, Nikola Tesla. So these ideas have been out there percolating in people's minds and visions. There were many visionaries since then, but it's remarkable to see that these ideas were out there. And the idea of pictures being transmitted transoceanic, you have to give him credit. He's one of the unsung heroes, and his name will come up again in the presentations. So a quick glimpse as to what's happened. 101 years ago, there was a vision from afar in the past. 48 years ago, a vision from a fellow named Licklider, while he was at ARPA, talking about a galactic network. The theory of packet networks was developed. 40 years ago, the birth took place. That's what we're celebrating today. 20 years ago, it was still full of nerds. Before the web, it was an unknown, wonderful technology being privatized by the collection of scientists. 10 years ago, in the middle of the dot-com era, the billionaires were being spawned and born. 5 years ago, we already had the bubble burst. People were licking their wounds. Post.com, recognizing, well, maybe revenue and profits matter. Maybe, because here we are now with the global financial crisis, and we're revisiting all of those issues. So the question is, how do we move on from here? So let's look at the event we're celebrating today specifically. What did it look like in 1969? I said I wouldn't do history, but we have to articulate the event that we're spending so much time talking about. Before September 69, we had a computer here in the computer science department running a time-sharing service here at UCLA. In September 69, that little baby arrived. That's the interface message processor. That's the piece of equipment outside in the hallway. Its job was to do communications and allow this technology to be deployed. That's what it looks like. You'll see it out there. That's the front panel. That's the inside. And you can go look at it on the breaks. In October, up at SRI, Stanford Research Institute, they had their computer, their imp arrived, they connected the two, and we put together a high-speed line running between the two switches. That was the first piece of the backbone internet ever installed. It was running at a blazing 50,000 bits per second, slower than most DS and dial-up lines these days, but nevertheless, in those days, it was blazing speed. So we decided to keep a log. You'll see a picture of that log outside. You notice that's an engineering log. This is not a math never new business log, right? A piece of paper. And in fact, we have in the audience today Anita Coley, who told me and reminded me today that that's her handwriting up there. Anita, where are you? Right over there. This lovely lady here. So there's an important entry in that log, and you'll see a picture of that outside. This is the only record of the event which we're celebrating today. We had no camera. We had no voice recorder. We have a written entry in the log dated October 29, 1969, 40 years ago to the day, 10:30 at night. Charlie Klein, who's also here in the audience. Charlie, stick your hand up. Over there. He's the program. Those are his initials right there. Charlie S. Klein. He entered that we talked to SRI host to host. That's the record of the message that was sent. So let's talk about that. Here's the setup, a little more configured. Our host, the IMP, the packet switch, if we build a high-speed line, their IMP, and that host. All we wanted to do was log in from this machine to that machine. This was the first message ever on the internet. Now, everybody knows what that message is. I'm going to take you through it very quickly. First of all, it wasn't something good or smart like "What hath God wrought?" A biblical quote for the first telegraph message. Samuel Morse understood that. Alexander Graham Bell, "Watson, come here, I need you." Not a bad message. Armstrong on the moon, "One giant leap for mankind." Those guys were smart. They understood public relations and media. We weren't anywhere in their class or category. All we wanted to do was log in. Very simple. In order to do that, you have to type LOG, and the IN follows by the remote machine and knows what you're trying to do. So we got all set up, and just to be sure, we had a telephone link as well. So Charlie could talk to Bill Duval. So there were the two of us down here and Bill up there, and we got going. So we sent the L, and we said, "You get the L?" And said, "Yep, got the L." Sent the O, "You get the O?" Got the O. Sent the G, "You get the G?" Crash. So the first message ever on the internet was lo, as in lo and behold, another biblical reference. And it couldn't have been more succinct or more prophetic. We were extremely lucky, and at some point in the future, that message will have the same stature as "What hath God wrought?" It's happening slowly, and it should, and it will. So let's move up to today. Let's think about this. Some words that you seldom hear around the internet: ethics, trust, open, free, shared. That was the culture of the early internet. We wanted to bring people in. We trusted everybody. We knew everybody that was on the internet at the time. So we could share everything we did. And there was no notion of economic gain. The gratification was in allowing people to use things that you've developed. Okay. So how do we get from there to here? Well, just to pay homage to the various contributors, there were the early pioneers, the implementers, the value adders, the launchers, and finally the billionaires. And it took a while for that to happen. It wasn't immediate at all. So what makes the internet tick? You heard some descriptions by Dean Deere and Vice Chancellor Wall. It's the people. It's the people that contribute their creative juices. 1.5 billion people right now and climbing. The second half is the culture, which allows those people to share what's going on and exchange information. Basically, it's a place where communities can form, and they do form there. So how has it changed our life? Well, you heard some of the ways. What has it done? It's reduced the barrier of distance. We've repealed the laws of physics. Distance is gone. How far you can reach, how many people you can reach, how fast you can reach to them. You can do it anonymously, which is not necessarily a good thing. Reduce the cost of communication and expanded how much you can get at, and the list goes on and on. So it's basically provided a mechanism for immediate access to almost everything. The internet is everything in some sense. It's removed other kinds of barriers. The political barriers: economic, social, cultural, racial, physical handicaps, physical appearance. You can be short, fat, and ugly, and have as much voice on the internet as a rich, socially enabled individual. So I'm sure you've seen this cartoon in the past, but it is so good I have to put it up here again. Here we have a picture of a big dog working on a computer talking to a little dog. And the big dog says to the little dog, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. So anonymously, you can appear to be anything you want, be it an avatar or pretend to be something. It's a democratizing element. Everybody has an equivalent voice on this thing called the internet. If you look at the way it's deployed across the world, and we'll hear more about this shortly, in rank order, China has about 340 million people. This is in the early 2009. Europe has just over 300. The United States is next. And then it falls off fairly steeply. These are the percentages of the population based on 100% up here. And of course, this tail goes on and on and on. In fact, some of those with the smallest constituencies have the largest percentage enablement and attachment. But you can see there are some very significant opportunities here. This is like a 30-odd% penetration in China. They have a long ways to go. So there's a kind of interesting span across the world. There's no way back at this point. We can't turn it off. The younger generation, they can't conceive of not having an internet in their life. They want to share their photos, chat, stream video, shop online. We can't turn the clock back. They won't let us. We won't let it happen. The internet world is here. In fact, it's merged our professional, our private, and our digital lives. It's all meeting in the internet and blending, and it's a 24-hour deal. It's not an 8-to-5 situation. So mobility is one of the coming applications we see really generating lots and lots of apps and the long reach, if you will. No matter where you are, whenever we are, whomever we happen to be, father, parent, professional, son, daughter, if we can seamlessly interact with anyone, any device, any service or application in any fashion. We can be everywhere without being there. And I'm going to comment on that a bit. So some of us take all of it with us. Recently, when I was about to go on a trip, I had all my electronic gear. I was trying to pack in my tiny little case. Excuse me. I decided to take a picture of it. And that's what it looked like. This is ridiculous. There's too much stuff there. Most of it's power supplies and batteries, you notice. So the urban nomads that we're developing these days, they're defined basically not by what they carry, but by what they don't carry, what they leave behind. Because they know when they get there, the environment will provide it, if not now, in a few months or a few years. These nomads carry, no paper, probably no laptop, maybe a mobile phone, maybe a smartphone, or BlackBerry, an iPhone, whatever. They're lightening up with that, instead of that package I was carrying around, and they believe they can get access to what they need. It's a social situation. They're sharing things. They're tribal. We're going back to very early roots of mankind and behaving as a social entity instead of individuals pulling back into their own protected environment. Location, again, is a key part of what's going on here. Where you are will affect what you do and what you get. So the question is, where are you? Who are you? What are you? Where are the services? Where are the objects? Where are the people? Are there geospatial capabilities available? Is there sensing technology there? Are you being identified? Can you identify what you see? And are you being tracked? These are all related to location, and that's becoming basically a full-fledged citizen in this environment of the internet. New services coming about. Ringback tones. How many of you have ever paid 99 cents for an extra ring on your cell phone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Most of you are not young enough. I mean, I never have. You know how big that industry is? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Music streaming, full song downloads, video downloads, full video streaming, gaming, gambling, sports. Every one of those is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So if you ask, what is it that monetizes the internet? You can identify a few obvious things: sex, celebrity, entertainment, and shopping. Lots of other things don't yet monetize. They're trying to do it. They're looking for ways. But we're going to discuss the issue of content and capital and monetization in this meeting. Other kinds of services. It turns out that applications and services have constantly surprised us on the internet. We haven't seen all of the big ones you deal with today. We haven't seen them coming. They were unpredictable. They come out of the blue. They hit us in the side of the head. Examples: email. Email was not anticipated. It took over the network shortly after it came on. The web, Google, file sharing networks, Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, blogs, user-generated content, YouTube, photo sharing, etc. None of those were anticipated ahead of time, and when they came, they were caught and they were really expanded. And it's really no surprise that happens because we have right now 1.5 billion people generating ideas. Most of them don't make it. It only takes a few, and they gain the popularity and they catch on. So what we can do is we can predict that we will be able to, unable to predict what's going to come out, and they will surprise us. That's the best you can say about the applications. And those applications, if you look how long they took, going back to radio, 38 years before it reached 50 million people, TV, cable, web, Napster. You look at this trend and say, oh my goodness, is it going to fall below 0? Will we reach 50 million people before the application is launched? The answer is maybe. You know, pre-announcement, I'll sign up. Here's my money, here's my subscription. Well, happily, I extended that a little bit. And if you look at some of the more recent applications, they're hovering around the 2 to 4 year period to gain 50 million. So that extrapolation was faulty, and happy that it didn't go negative. It looks like we've reached a tipping point, though. Up until recently, in the past, technology was moving ahead and moving ahead of the applications. The applications were seeing the technology roll out and being created to match the technology. That's now changing. Now we're seeing the applications racing ahead of the technology, and the technology is trying to catch up and match what the applications are demanding and providing. So in some sense, I believe we have crossed a tipping point. There's been basically a reversal. And it does change the way we think about the businesses we start and the way we roll out this technology. So there is a flexible future for the internet. It's up to us, and circumstances around the world will shape it. It's going to provide the following kinds of things, I believe, and we'll talk about that here. Extreme mobility, personalization on a mass basis, customized to everybody, video addiction, location-based services I talked about before, smart spaces. We're going to take cyberspace out from behind the screen of our laptops, bring it into our physical world, using the kinds of embedded technologies that you heard Dean Deere talk about here and across the rest of the world. We're going to deploy small devices, MEMS devices, in the walls. When I walk into this room, it'll know I'm here. It'll know you're here. You can talk to the walls. It'll provide customized services. It'll know your profile, your privileges, your preferences. And that will be deployed everywhere, in your car, in your desk, in your fingernails, in your eyeglasses, possibly in you. And the internet will be available. You heard both about Vinsurf. The internet is wherever access is. Well, this says it'll be everywhere. And it's going to be easy to use. It's going to be invisible. It's going to disappear into the infrastructure. So you don't have to fuss around with all the features and the buttons and the strange protocols that we all play with. It's going to be a simple human interface. There's much research being done in that domain right now, and much more to be done. Surprising applications, as I said, and lots of significant changes in the way we behave. So the future is here. Everyone knows about the internet. My 6-year-old granddaughter knows about it. My 99-year-old mother knew about it. It's basically penetrating everything we do, every aspect of our lives. These are times of change. They're times of terrific opportunity. A lot of the young people feel all the good work has been done. And what's left for them to do? The answer is lots to be done, far more than it was probably a few years ago. So it's a wonderful sandbox in which one can play. And I claim that the internet is only in its early teenage years. And as a teenager, it's behaving badly. Okay? The dark side has emerged. We're seeing the things that you expect teenagers to do. The question is, when they grow up to be young adults, will we get over this period of misbehaving, if you will? I'll use a kind word. So, where to from here? We're going to see convergence of just about everything, changes in the way you do everything, a future with extreme mobility, as I said, mass personalization, video addiction, location-based service, smart spaces. I went through this before, surprising apps. The infrastructure is easy to predict. That idea of coming into the walls, into the room, is easy. It's the applications that are hard. And in the applications world, it's Wild West. It's everybody trying something. Some succeeding, most of them failing. So we've come a long way. Or have we? And with that wonderful thought, we're going to begin the session right now. So. Our first speaker, our keynote speaker, is a very good friend of mine, Nicholas Negroponte. I've known him for many years.